Welcome to the Toni Cooper Cast. Experience stories, life lessons, and teaching moments. Join us as we inspire you to be your authentic self. Welcome to our next episode of the Toni Cooper Cast. I'm so happy that you are joining us today. The question today is, who are you? Your opportunity goes off in the morning. You wake up, you stretch, you get out of bed, you walk to the bathroom, you use the restroom, you brush your teeth, you look at yourself in the mirror. Who knows what you say? You walk out, you get dressed, and you go about your day. And as you're going out your day, things are good, and then you decide you're going to meet up with a friend that evening. And you go and you meet up with this friend, and as you see your friend a little ways down, you notice that there's somebody talking to your friend. And you hear this individual talking to your friend. But here's what this individual is saying to your really, really close friend. They're telling your friend, oh, you look ugly. Your hair is terrible. Man, your wrinkles stink. Maybe you should try to lose weight. Who dressed you this morning? And you hear all these terrible things. What would you do? Would you let the person keep on going, belittling your friend, disrespecting them, saying everything they can, or would you stand up for your friend? I would hope you would be the one that would stand up for your friend, hopefully in a respectful way. So let's say you do. You're not going to allow somebody to talk to your friend like that. That's just rude. But what happens to your friend now? Now you're having lunch, you're relaxing, you're chit-chatting with each other, but that person is now down the whole day. They're not feeling good about themselves. They're having a rough day now because no matter what, words are powerful, right? So no matter what, the words that individual said to your friend, still, whether they're true or not, they're still a part of them. So then the day goes and you get home, you feel bad for your friend, and you go to bed. Well, here's the thing. Who talks to you more than anybody else in the world? Who is that person that is with you 24 hours a day? Who's the person that has been with you since you were born and will be with you until your death? That's you. You talk to you more than anybody else. Here's the question. What are you saying to yourself? Now, if you would get upset that a friend was being belittled and being disrespected and somebody's talking to them and being rude, how come this happens? So let's go back. Your opportunity clock goes off. You wake up in the morning, you stretch, you get out of bed, you go into the bathroom, and you look in the mirror. Now, you don't have to answer this, but I guarantee this is some of you. You look in the mirror, and what do you say to yourself? Oh my gosh. Look at my hair. What am I doing? Ugh. Look at the wrinkles. What are you thinking? Why are you wearing? How many of you done that? Or maybe you don't say that. Maybe you're like, oh, I just can't do this. It's going to be a crappy day. This is going to be a horrible this. It's not going to work. How many of you do that? That's what I find very, very interesting. We allow ourselves to say this to ourselves, but we'd never let a friend be disrespected. Yet you are with you more than anybody else. So who do you think is listening to you? It's that voice in your head. So you look in the mirror and you're talking to this mirror. So not only are you hearing yourself say it, but now this reflection is coming back at you. So it's it's very similar to the same thing as some stranger talking to you. If you say it long enough and often enough, sooner or later you're going to believe it. Right? So what is your self-talk? What are you saying to yourself? Now, am I telling you that if you look in the mirror and you go, I'm wonderful, I'm great, I'm beautiful, all the world's going to be perfect and life's going to be wonderful? Absolutely not, right? I mean, I can sit up all day long and say that I can do this, but if I don't actually try and put the work in, then I'm not going to be able to do that, right? But the key part of this is that so often we're willing to stand up for our friends. We're willing to stand up for our children. We're willing to stand up for our spouse and for our parents. But we're not willing to stand up for ourselves. So what I am encouraging you to do, I'm encouraging you to check yourself. Every morning morning when you wake up, check yourself. What is it that you're saying to yourself? And what is the reflection that's coming back at you? Make one change, just one, right? And then once you make that one change, make another, make a third, and start changing the vocabulary and the sentences and what's going on in your mind. So I'm going to give you a real life example. I had the privilege today, actually, this morning, I was working with some leaders they work with the Pentagon, the Department of Defense. And I was working with those leaders on communication and helping to ask the right questions to define the root of a problem. Okay, so this was our conversation. And we were talking about, well, how do you ask the right questions? And one of the individuals, she said, well, sometimes when I ask questions, like I ask why or what happened or things like that, people immediately assume I'm being rude, I'm being disrespectful, or this. I said, okay, tell me about yourself. And then she proceeds to tell me everything that's wrong with herself. So here she is, a leader that works with the Pentagon, that has been there for a long time, that gets to retire in literally 5 years, and she's sitting there telling us everything that's wrong with herself. Okay? And I said, that's not what I asked you. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I asked you to tell me about yourself. I said, I just wanted you to talk so we could have a conversation so I could teach you how to ask questions, so we could communicate. She goes, oh, you were role playing. I said, yes. I said, but thank you for the enlightenment. She goes, what do you mean? I said, you just belittled yourself and berated yourself and gave me at least 15 negative statements. Now, I didn't count, but I'm telling you, it was a lot. Okay? And she goes, no, I didn't. I said, well, it's recorded. Do you want to play it back? And she was like, no, I don't want to play it back. That's the point. We don't even know what we're saying to ourselves. So we will protect everybody around us, but we don't even protect our own mindset. So before you even talked about, which I'll tell you about that in another class or another podcast on how to communicate and ask questions, but before we even got into that, we had to start with the person inside. She had to start seeing herself as a confident individual. She had to start seeing herself as a leader that she is. She didn't get in that position by accident, trust me. She's very good at what she does. She needed to see that in herself, because what it came down to was, it wasn't that people felt offended or felt disrespected when she asked the questions. It's that they felt like she didn't really know and she wasn't confident enough in her conversations, so we had to build her confidence. So we had to talk about that. Now, we're going to meet again next week and a few more weeks after that. This was just our first conversation today, and I look forward to seeing what happens, and maybe I'll have her on my show someday. That would be fantastic if she was willing. But here's the key thing. There's little steps that we can take to start changing what goes into our mind, to changing the thoughts that are in our mind. And again, I'm not telling you that by changing your thoughts from negative to positive, the world's going to be a bright, beautiful place and there's going to be no problems. All I'm going to tell you is that seeing yourself in a positive way makes things easier than seeing yourselves in a negative way. Right? It doesn't make everything perfect. It just makes life a little bit easier. So let me give you an example. Or not an example, a tip. Here's what we do. So you know the mirror that we just talked about, that beautiful mirror that you get to look at yourself, and there's this beautiful reflection that's coming back, and there's a wonderful friend that's talking to you and saying all those wonderful things to you? Well, there's these things, and I don't have an example with me, but there's these things called Expo markers. And I know that's a brand, but they're like these little dry erase markers that you can write on whiteboards with them. If you take a dry erase marker and you put it on a mirror, and you draw on a mirror, it will wipe off with glass cleaner with no difficulty. So what you do is you take and you write positive affirmations on that mirror. So you write, I am beautiful, right? I am courageous. I am kind. I know how to ask questions. I'm an effective leader. Whatever it is. And maybe for a week or a month, you have one saying in there that says, I am. And it has to say, I am. Not I will be or I might be. It's I am. So that you see it every day, and guess what happens? Even if you're not willing to say it out loud, you're still saying it. Because you're going to look at it, you're going to see it, and it's going to say, I am beautiful, or I am kind, or I am courageous, or I am whatever, okay? Or I can do this. So we do this with our kids. So I'll tell you this fun little story. I don't know how this worked. I tell you, parenting is one of those things where you kind of just throw it up and hope it works. And when it does, you're like, woohoo, parenting win. And I'm telling you, sometimes that's exactly what leadership is, okay? Where you just go for it with your team, see what happens. And when it's a win, you're like, woohoo, it's a win. So we did this with my kids, the same thing, this mirror. The mirror is your friend, is what we call it. So that person that you're looking at is a friend of yours, and you need to see them that way. And so my kids were having a rough day a few years ago, and I don't know if they remember this. I'm going to have to ask them. But they were having a rough day. Everybody was just at their emotional breakdown. I don't even know what caused it. It could have just been exhaustion. But you know when kids are having those emotional breakdowns, they're just kind of at each other, sort of like bugging each other and touching each other and poking at each other kind of thing and trying to annoy each other. I mean, you see it in business. It just doesn't look like a little kid's fight where someone's mad at somebody or there's a conflict with this individual and things of that nature. And I had it. I was done. I'm like, we can't do this anymore. So I took them both in the mirror and I stood them in front of this mirror in the bathroom. Right? And I said, I just need you to stand there and look at yourself. Now, what do you think two little kids did? They looked at me like I'm the most idiotic person in the whole wide world. And what in the world are you doing to us? Well, no big deal. I don't care. I want you to stare at yourself in the mirror. So they stared and they stared. And I said, you don't get to say a word. That was really hard for one of my children. The other one, he had no problem being quiet. And they stood there, and out of nowhere, they just start giggling and laughing. Because I'm telling you, it's very, very difficult to stare at yourself in front of the mirror without giggling and laughing. And then I gave each of them a dry erase marker. And I said, I just want you to write what you love about your brother on the mirror. And then I want you to write what you love about your brother. And then they started writing it. And honest to goodness, they would not erase it. I think that thing stayed up there for at least 3 months before I'm like, we got to clean these mirrors at some point. So we finally cleaned them. But that's what they do now. We have the dry erase markers in the bathroom. They'll draw little pictures sometimes. They'll write little positive words on there. And it's amazing because every time you look in it, you see it. So my point here is this, is that you are good enough. You are strong enough. You are handsome. You are beautiful. You can do things. And whatever the world tells you, it's time to drown that out. And it's time to look in the mirror and see yourself as that authentic, honest person that you are. You need to see who you really are. You don't need to be the person that everybody thinks you need to be. You need to be you. That person in the mirror is your friend. Enjoy that friend, see that friend, say hi to that friend, and when you feel like the friend's not saying what you need them to say, take that dry erase marker and write it on the mirror. Matter of fact, if you have multiple bathrooms in your house, put it in every mirror. So when your guests come over, they can see it and they're saying it to themselves, right? We can start a mirror is your friend revolution. Everybody's got something on it, okay? It's just step one. It doesn't make the world perfect. It doesn't make you perfect, but it's just step one in starting to see yourself as the person that you need to. So the next time you wake up and your opportunity clock goes off and you stretch and you get out of bed and you walk into the bathroom, look in that mirror and be proud of the person you see. Be proud of who you are so that you can continue your day with a smile on your face, lifting others up and being the leader that you are meant to be. Thank you so much for joining us on the Toni Cooper Cast today. I appreciate each one of you. I look forward to talking with you next time. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put those in there and we'll answer them to the best that we can. Have a phenomenal day. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next week for more inspirational stories. And always, remember, keep on smiling.